everyone, it's Lucky with Unfiltered Lucky. And today I want to talk a little bit about something that I haven't really talked about in the Idaho 4 case, but it's something that's definitely always stayed on my mind. Now, a lot of us have said that one of the most unbelievable aspects of these crimes is that one single individual took the lives of 4 victims with a single sharp-edged blade. We've talked about how difficult this crime would be for someone who had no experience committing these types of violent crimes. But what if they did have experience? What if this was something that they had done before? Why did Steve Gonsalves say in an interview with Fox just after these crimes occurred that we're finding that there's even more than just my daughter and these children who have suffered? So is he saying that there's more victims other than the Idaho 4? That's just kind of an odd thing to say. Now, we know that the Gonsalveses did hire a private investigator, and that this private investigator was working with other investigators from Washington and Oregon. You know, other investigators from out of state. Were they trying to maybe link some crimes together? Let's talk about the stabbing that occurred in Washougal, Washington on June 13th in the late night hours. That was in 2021. Now, the victim was found on the 14th, but investigators believe that these crimes happened in the late night hours on June 13th. Now, this happened in Washougal, Washington, which is 340 miles from Moscow, Idaho. So less than a 6-hour drive. The victim was Sandra Ladd, a 71-year-old woman who had worked for the school systems. She was very well liked in her community, and she was a grandma. She loved her family, and she loved hanging out with her grandkids. As far as her family and friends know, she had no enemies or anyone that she had issues with. Now, Sandra Ladd was also found in her bed and presumed to be asleep when the attack occurred. She was attacked with a large knife, and this case has never been solved. Sandra Ladd's family has stated publicly and expressed their frustrations with investigators because they don't believe that there's any progress happening in this case. So this was one victim. Travis Weton and his wife, Jamielynn, were both also attacked in their home while they were in bed. Now, these crimes occurred with a sharp-edged blade, and they occurred at approximately 3 a.m. on August 13th, 2021. Now, Silverton, Oregon is only 390 miles from Moscow, Idaho, and it's less than 60 miles from where the Washougal, Washington crime occurred. Travis was stabbed 29 times with a large knife, and he lost his life. His wife, Jamielynn, was stabbed 19 times with that same large knife, and she actually survived this attack. Now, she's had many surgeries since then, and it's been an uphill battle for her, as you can imagine. So she hasn't been able to provide any type of information that has led to an arrest. There was also another person in the house with Travis and Jamielynn, and she was unharmed. Now, This is 2 victims. And this is 14 months after the Sandra Ladd crimes. So in the Sandra Ladd crime in Washougal, Washington, there was 1 victim whose life was taken with a large knife. In the Travis and Jamielynn Juetten case, there were 2 victims who were both attacked with a large knife. Now, these crimes happened less than 60 miles apart. So it's real close proximity. And both of these crimes are still unsolved. Let's talk about the Idaho 4 crimes. Now, the Idaho 4 crimes occurred on November 13th of 2022 at approximately what law enforcement believed in the beginning was 3 to 4 a.m. There were 4 victims, and all of these victims' lives were taken with a large knife, according to investigators. These victims were all in their beds, and they were all presumed to be sleeping when these attacks began. So there's a lot of similarities between all 3 of these crimes. The Sandra Ladd crimes, the Travis and Jamielynn Juetten crimes, and the Idaho 4 crimes are all very similar in the way that they were carried out, as well as the manner in which all of these victims' lives were taken. The Idaho 4 crimes occurred exactly 15 months after the Weton crimes. There's a lot of similarities in these cases. All 3 of these crimes occurred on the 13th of the month. They all happened at approximately the same time in the late night, early morning hours. All of these victims' lives were taken with a large knife, and they were all attacked while they were in their beds and presumed to be sleeping by law enforcement. All of the victims in these 3 crimes sustained multiple wounds. Some would say overkill. And they all happened within a 6-hour drive of each other in very small towns with presumably very small police departments. We're talking 50,000 people in all 3 of these towns combined. So they were very small towns and a lot of wide open space and wilderness. The Ladd-Weton crimes happened 14 months apart. Exactly 14 months apart. The Weton Idaho 4 crimes happened exactly 15 months apart. Now, in the Washougal, Washington, Sandra Ladd case, there was 1 victim. In the Travis and Jamielynn Juetten case in Silverton, Oregon, there were 2 victims. And in Idaho, there were 4 victims. So, does this sound like maybe a serial attacker who's possibly ramping up? A perpetrator who's becoming more and more confident. Maybe they began with 1 victim, 71-year-old Sandra Ladd, and then moved on to 2 victims, Travis and Jamielynn, who were 26 and 24. These 2 crimes occurred in 2020 and 2021, and neither one of them have ever been solved. Now, Chief Fry did state in an interview that investigators who were working on these other 2 crimes did reach out to Moscow Police Department to talk to them about a possible link. Other investigators in Washington and Oregon wanted to talk to Moscow Police Department and discuss whether maybe these crimes were all connected, since there were so many similarities. Now, Chief Fry also stated that they didn't believe that these crimes were connected at all. But it would make sense that that's what law enforcement would say to the public, because maybe they don't want to tip off whoever is committing these crimes and let this individual or this perpetrator or multiple perpetrators know that they're on to this link or this possible link. Also, they might not want to say that and alarm the public. Is it possible that investigators in the Idaho 4 crimes know that there is a connection between the Idaho 4 crimes and the crimes that occurred to Sandra Ladd and Travis and Jamielynn Juetten? Now, of course, it's very possible that none of these crimes are connected at all. But that's a lot of similarities between these three crimes, especially when you consider that they all happened within a 6-hour drive from one another. Possibly someone who's OCD and has an interest in numerology. Is it possible that maybe whoever's committing these crimes leaves a calling card or a symbol, some sort of indication to let law enforcement know that it's the same individual committing all of these crimes? Is it possible that investigators found this calling card as soon as they entered the King Roadhouse, and that was the reason why they had an idea about what may have happened right away? This is all very interesting, and I think I may do some separate videos about the Ladd crimes as well as the Weton crimes, because these three crimes, including the Idaho 4 crimes, all sound very, very similar. It's very possible, in my opinion, that it could be the same attacker committing all of these crimes. There's so much that has to do with symbolism and numerology, all the dates and the times and the number of victims. They start with 1 maybe, and then they get away with that, and they move on to 2, and then they get away with that, and then they move on to 4, and, so on. It sounds like maybe a serial attacker who could be becoming more and more confident as they go along. So this is really interesting. And I am going to dig deeper into these Ladd crimes as well as the Weton crimes. And we'll talk about that down the road. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I really do appreciate it. And if you liked my video, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Stay tuned for my next video because we have a lot to talk about this week. We'll see you next time.